Hello. Hey, I just started uploading some content to my Patreon. I hope you'll stop by. Put the link in the description. Anybody that stops by, press that like button. I don't have that all that many likes, and it'd just be really great to have a few more. Anyway, I'm going to show you on my phone. This is exclusive content. So arrangements that I've made. You can see a quartet version of Carol of the Bells, duet version of Carol of the Bells, a quartet version of the Swan. And I also have a duet version of the famous Beethoven Minuet. I posted something about that, which I will be uploading soon as well. Anyway, the next section in the Violoncello and Its History is on France. And I have discovered, because of reading that book, excuse me, this composer from the 18th century. His surname is Azais. Azais. I absolutely have no idea how to pronounce it in a French way. He wrote a set of 12 sonatas, and they're all very charming pieces of music, and it's quite stunning to hear the fairly different character of his writing style compared to the German. And that goes for Breval, whom I also looked up on account of learning that famous C major sonata, as a student in the Suzuki book, I think Suzuki Volume 4. And I'm happy to say that, of course, I knew Breval wrote more music than just that sonata, but I never bothered to look it up, and nobody ever bothers to tell you about it. And I just decided to look it up, and there is a ton of Breval music, including concertos. So it's pretty interesting, quite exciting stuff here. So without further ado, here is some Azais. This is from Sonata Number One. And you tell me, what do you think about this sort of music? I mean, he comes out really shining quite brightly. There's a lot of nice material that's there, and you check it out. It's really interesting stuff. So now let's go to Sonata Number 2. This one's in A minor. I'd also like to mention that they seem to be rather progressive as well, just like the Shet key, but even more so. They start much more straightforward in basically first position, or shifting in really easy to work out places. Nothing too rhythmically complex. Really quite good stuff. I use really quite often, don't I? Good. Here's the presto. I'm going to start it over, right? Good. Let's go on. He does get into more advanced key signatures, as it were. I think this is a particularly beautiful largo from the third sonata in G. And the Allemands. Yeah. Again, this music that I'm choosing is is deliberately not terribly difficult. Um, one reason is I think that beginners, intermediate players too, especially actually, really could take advantage of these works here to help with better understanding. It's like introducing the intermediate player to the more standard works, like the Marcello Sonata in in E minor, and of course the Vivaldi sonatas, in particular the E minor one, number 5. Sammartini, Bach Viola da Gamba Sonata in G, for example, the Allegro Moderato. And I think there's a couple more. But it's kind of a pity, in my opinion, not just from the standpoint of not playing the music, but it's kind of a pity that students are not introduced to the sonata form or the suite form in compositions that are a little more simple to understand. It's not that you don't give the great music to the students. It's that it helps the students. There's the argument that you should only, if you want to be a great musician, or if you want to learn how to play really well, only expose yourself to the best compositions and play the greatest compositions. But at the same time, the vast majority of us mortals just cannot wrap our heads around it, even if we are exposed to it nonstop. And so, just like you could never start off your life after being born by running outside the hospital, 3 days later, or whatever the case may be, why would you expect a student to be able to play Bach without being introduced to that era in a simpler piece? It's like you expect the students. And I have to say, I kind of admire the Sassman House method for that, because they start out with the folk music, the traditional tunes, but they're easing you into the great music with little ditties from the Baroque era, from the classical era, minuets and just little duets like allegros and eventually minuets. And it really does a nice job in that sense. I've never used it all the way through, but I've taken pieces from it, and it's always well received by students. It's very well laid out. So the Sassman's House cello series, it's 4 volumes, just like his original. This is his son, I think. Kurt Sassman's House is the violin father, and then his son arranged the cello version. Also, both are 4 volumes. Anyway, I have all 4 volumes, and I think, for those that listen this far along, tell me what you think. What is it about these pieces that are just not worth your time? Or what would make these pieces worth your time? You don't have to study the entire sonata. Just like in the methods, they rarely give you an entire sonata until you're 2 or 3 years into studying it. Or if you're really young when you begin, you don't start learning whole sonatas until you're like 6 or 7 years into it. That'd be interesting to know what people think. If you can accept these forgotten cello pieces. It's almost ashamed that I chose the name Forgotten Cello Music as well, because I kind of feel like it puts people off, like forgotten. Well, whatever the case may be, I'm trying to paint it in a picture, in a light rather, that is not the negative sense it's forgotten, but like in a romantically forgotten way, kind of like I don't know, you forget about your old romances, you forget about your first love, something like that, and then you maybe recall for whatever reason, because you saw a picture or saw a letter or something that you walked past reminded you. I don't know, it's something like that, but in a very utilitarian way. I know it's contradictory, but I kind of mean it. So I think they're both romantic, and it's also utilitarian. You can utilize this material. Like I said, I mean, there's so much out there. Obviously, you can't do everything, but certainly, I think a little of this material could be integrated into some lessons, so that people can see that not everybody that's successful writes this romanticized picture. We have this romanticized picture in our psyches, in our brains, because that's what the textbooks give to us. And they poo-poo anything that is not great, that's not inspired, I guess you could say. And I don't have anything against in these inspired pieces. In fact, I love them just like anybody else, that they do inspire me. But the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of composers are not writing inspired music. It doesn't come off that way. I mean, we're not listening to it, right? We spend most of our time listening to Bach, Vivaldi, Mozart, Brahms, and then occasionally they throw in these forgotten pieces. So that's my little spiel on that. So I don't know what if you have any thoughts. I'm sure you do. Just very few of you will get to this point of the video. So I hope that the one or two that get to this point, or if you've clicked ahead and you happen on this spot, please write a comment and say, oh yeah, I think I could use that, or there's just not enough time, or it's not worth it to go searching through all that, because students aren't really that interested anyway. But how would you know? They've never heard it before, and you've never played it for them. So Breval. Now Breval. This is a fantastic discovery. He wrote a whole lot of music. And there's a set of 6 sonatas, in which is included, as Sonata Number One, the most famous cello sonata by Breval. It's the C major. Every cello student, I'm absolutely positive, every cello student knows it, even if they haven't played it. But probably 99% of cello students play this if they learn cello for more than 4 years. 3 years for the more bright students, I guess, and 2 years for the extremely gifted students, the self-motivated ones. Now, there's not a whole lot that's different between the Suzuki version and this, other than one blaring important difference, and that this is an unfigured. This has an unfigured bass part. So if you're going to use this as the accompaniment, you need to know chord progressions like the back of your hand. There's nothing to tell you how to stack the chord, or to how to play the sonorities. So you really need to know. And It's very beautiful just as a sonata. Of course, when you fill out the chords, it becomes more rich and you hear even more beautiful things. Anyway, for those that are not particularly familiar with it, here's a little reminder. I'll play a couple of passages. I mean, it really is a nice piece of music. There's no doubt about that. All right, so I've got messages from my daughter out on a mommy-daughter date. Okay, now let's go on. I'm going to skip the rondo because in the Suzuki, they're both movements are there, and I'm going to skip over to where was that one? That was quite exciting. I liked it. I think it's number 3. Let me go down to the rondo. Yeah. I'll play just a little bit from the third sonata as well. Okay. So just a reminder, my Patreon account, thank you to my subscribers. I have now 2 subscribers there, so thank you very much. I'm growing just a little by little. I know this is this is a real niche area, forgotten cello music. And of course, I don't do only forgotten cello music. I too want to play some of the music that I grew up on. I mean, it just brings back good memories, and I love to just revisit the Brahms sonatas, Franck and Beethoven, all that good stuff. So go visit there. You can get PDFs if you sign up for, I think the $5 tier, $5 level subscription and higher. And you can also get a mug with my mug on the mug. So there is a brilliant white mug with my picture on it. It's the profile picture you've got there. It's just it's got some extra words on it. Just it says it has a really nice forgotten cello music there, so you can every time you take a sip of your drink, you can remember, oh yeah, I should go look up some Breval. I should go look up some Johann Schepke. I should go play my cello right now. Sonata Number 3 by Breval, the first movement. Yeah, I mean, it's pleasant music. You know, go get yourself a copy from IMSLP. It's free. Now the rondo. I particularly like this rondo. In fact, I like all of his rondos quite a lot. They got a flow to them. Yeah. It's such a pity that my trill doesn't really work. My trill doesn't really work that well. So anyone that get this far, thank you for joining. Please leave your comments. You know, if you think that forgotten cello music could be incorporated in some way, you know, a little way, you could go through and pick a movement here and there into lessons or just into your listening. I've been listening to lots of other forgotten music, not just cello music, and it's all quite enthralling. You get a different sound world than the others. It can be a little bit droll, maybe, or a little bit stuck in tonalities that the composers choose. But I think they've got some really genuinely fun ideas. All right, so here is a little bit more. This is in B flat. This is Breval's Sonata. And interestingly enough, it's a solo part with a accompanied by a bass part that is unfigured. And in this time period, they wrote bass parts. That's true, but they didn't write out all the chords. They wrote little numbers called figures, and then the accompanist, because they knew theory so well back then, they would just make it up as they go. So it was accepting the bass line that they wrote out. Everything else was extemporaneously, spontaneously come up with. Anyway, it makes a really nice duet, and all of these Baroque compositions are the same. They make really nice duets regardless. So here's a little B-flat sonata allegro. You know, little things like that. Let me do it again. I just really gets into my excitement section, I guess you could call it. It's so hard to find this stuff that is outside of these forgotten cello pieces. Yes, they exist. I realize that. It's not that they don't, but in extended ways. Listen. It's so pleasing, you know. It's got so many little tricks, little exquisite happiness things. It has I should have written this down, but it's kind of like coming off the top of my head. I feel like there's some exuberance to these lesser composers, the uninspired composers. There's a certain amount of exuberant I'm going to think of the word exuberant innocence. That's the word, exuberant innocence, that is genuinely difficult to find in the so-called inspired works. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't exist in the inspired works, but it's not profusely scattered in the works of those great composers. Let's see. I'm going to go and play just a little bit now from the Aria. Okay, so this is a little bit unusual in sonata form from this time. You don't often find it, but it's really invigorating when they do. So this is an Aria in the second movement in Andantino with variations. So let's go through it. I'm going to take it a bit of a slow tempo, and I haven't printed it out because I'm still deciding what I want to play. So I'm playing off my computer screen. Thank goodness I was able to. I'm able to read it. So 1 and 2. Now comes the variation. That was the theme and variation. You see, it just has this gentleness to it. And just a little bit from variation 2, so you can see here some of the contrast. You know what? In the melody, guess where the melody is? In the accompaniment. That's not surprising. Everybody does that. I mean, Tchaikovsky, of course, does that in the Rococo variations. And anybody else writing good music. You know, what do you think? Tell me what you think. Anybody that gets to this point in the video, thank you very much. And I'm genuinely excited about this kind of music. I really am. I think it's really interesting. I've just always been. I've kind of always been that person that explores a little bit off the beaten path and sometimes really far away, trying to stay away from the mainstream. Kind of cost me a lot. It's cost me actually quite dearly in so doing, but you know, it's exciting. It's exciting to do that. Let's see. I think I've got one more that I can do. Before I do that, I just want to plug a little bit of the arrangements that I've made. I just noticed that there's a viewer here, so thank you so much for watching, and pass on pass on this channel to your friends. I'd love to be able to share some time with others. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the comments. Thank you. That's very nice to see. Tell your friends. Here is on my Patreon, I've got a downloadable version of Carol of the Bells if you are a subscriber. And, you know, if you want to buy the PDF of my arrangements just without subscribing to Patreon, then, you know, you can pay for it through my PayPal as well. And that would be just fine. If I'm here on this channel, several people have approached me about it just out of their curiosity. I wasn't trying to sell them anything, and they were willing to send a payment, and then I returned the product, the PDF, through an email they provided, and everything worked out just fine. I'm not trying to do anything naughty, I guess you could say. Now, Carol of the Bells. I started it off like this in the second cello part, rather. This is where the main melody resides. I do 2 verses of it in my arrangement. The cello quartet version is very, very close to the YouTube version that I did. You can look that up. It wasn't too long ago. Christmas was only 2 months ago, 2 months prior. So you can look that up. That'd be fun for me to hear some more comments, what you think. The video was a little bit weird. But unfortunately, it happened that I really wanted to get that video up at that time. And for some reason, I did not save my, the video version. I only had the audio version of my solo. And I was like, no, I've got to re-record it. Now I've got other things to do. Anyway, thank you. I'm going to end this. Where's the smiley face? There it is. Okay. Smiley face. Thank you for your wonderful comment. Now, anybody that has listened to my podcast, I have 38 episodes up, knows that I like to practice German. I'm not very confident in it, but I do understand quite a lot, and I can hold a fairly decent conversation. And someday I might try to do a podcast in German, but it'd be really oh, I don't know. See, my lack of confidence is coming through. All right, now here is a little something else. This composer from France in the 18th century, and again, my French is non-existent, but this is my best shot. Patuart. So, if you know how to pronounce his name, Patourt, that'd be great. I'm not sure I'm going to put this in my podcast, but I think it's interesting music. So here's a sonata. The second sonata has an adagio as the first movement. And here's just a phrase from the next movement, the following movement in Allegro. It's nice. It really is nice. It's just probably a little bit more than I could manage right now because I don't have a lot of time to be able to practice, put together my YouTube content, and also work on the podcast. So it's a lot to do. A lot to do. All right. Last thing that I'm going to say is I've got PDFs. I've got arrangements that are for sale. Selling the PDFs is a way for me to earn a little bit. I can continue to upload content a little more regularly. I can work more at peace. And, please, I would love to provide some arrangements that are something that you would really genuinely enjoy, something you would really like to play. So if you have any suggestions, tell your friends that you might want something for a cello duet, for a cello trio, cello quartet, and I'd be happy to look into it and see if I could make something nice and playable. Maybe. I mean, it all depends what the piece is, really. And at this point, I'm only doing works that are in the public domain. So anything that's like the beginning of the 1900s, something that's at least 100 years old, and of course older. So, for example, I'm going to start working on this Guiltermann Nocturne in D minor for cello duet. I have noticed that I've gotten quite a lot of views. Nothing that will blow you out of the water, but a lot more than most of my other videos. So this is what I'm going to leave you with. I think this is a beautiful intermediate level nocturne. The melody just works well. And I don't know if it's the same person that joined me for most of the live stream, but thank you so much. I'm glad that you're staying along and that you're enjoying the time here. Really appreciate it. If you could go and press like and comment on one video, that would just be fantastic. And like I said, if you're interested in the PDF, you can write me a message and I'd be happy to help you out a little bit. So thank you. Have a great time wherever you are. And now it's time for me to go. I hope to be back again soon.